Welcome, everyone, to today's Explainer. I am so incredibly thrilled you're joining us because today we are talking about something that is a total game changer for language learners, the B2 fluency leap. If you've ever felt like your English is technically grammatically correct, but still somehow sounds a little bit, well, like a textbook, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to completely bridge that gap. We're going to upgrade your English toolkit so you can move from simply avoiding errors to mastering the really natural, precise, and nuanced language that native speakers actually expect to hear. To do this, we're going to cover the B2 fluency leap, mastering pet collocations, the preposition to trap, sequencing the past perfect, and polite and partial agreement. And to make this super practical and easy to remember, we'll tie it all together with a fun, real-world story about adopting a new pet. So let's jump right in.
Okay, let's dive into section 1, the B2 fluency leap, sounding natural versus sounding correct. Taking this leap to upper intermediate fluency really requires a shift in mindset. It isn't just about avoiding errors anymore. It's about adopting the precise, fixed phrases that native speakers use naturally.
Which brings us to section 2, mastering pet collocations, the words that travel together. Picture this. You've just decided to adopt a new animal. Well, caring for a pet involves some very specific, fixed vocabulary. And this brilliantly illustrates how tiny adjustments change absolutely everything. Let's say you're trying to find a new home for an animal. You wouldn't make an advertisement. To a native ear, that just sounds a bit foreign. Instead, you place an ad or post an ad. Furthermore, if your pet needs a specific diet, you do not feed a cat with special food. You just drop the preposition entirely and feed a cat special food. It's these incredibly precise tweaks, like swapping make for place or dropping the word with, that instantly shift your sentence from sounding unnatural to completely 100% native. Let's quickly run through a few more essential terms for our pet adoption story. If an animal's been living on the streets, we don't call it a homeless dog. The fixed phrase is a stray dog or a stray kitten. To prevent an animal from reproducing, a vet will neuter a male cat or spay a female. Once your kitten is home, they'll need an indoor toilet, which is a litter tray, and a place to sharpen their claws without absolutely destroying your sofa, known as a scratching post. Finally, outdoor cats have this instinct to leave scent signals around your garden. They mark their territory. The big takeaway here? These are packaged deals. You literally cannot swap even one word without breaking the phrase. Let's move on and see how this builds into section 3, the preposition to trap. Breaking the infinitive rule. This is actually one of the most common and frankly surprising traps for intermediate learners. So a quick test for you. Which of these sounds correct to your ear? I am looking forward to see you, or I am looking forward to seeing you. Take a second to guess. We almost always assume that the word to signals an infinitive verb, like to see or to do. And usually that's completely true, but there's a really tricky exception. So the crucial point is understanding the gerund rule. In some expressions, the word to acts as a preposition. And the golden rule is that a preposition is always followed by a noun or a gerund. That's the ing form of a verb, never a bare infinitive. So the correct phrasing is absolutely, I'm looking forward to seeing you. Because to acts as a preposition here, it strictly demands that ing ending. And look forward to isn't alone. It belongs to a whole family of structures that follow this exact same rule. You've got be used to, get used to, object to, admit to, resort to, and in addition to. So if you say, she is not used to live alone, you've fallen right into the trap. It must be, she is not used to living alone. It might feel a bit counterintuitive at first, but memorize this family, and using the ing form will start to feel incredibly natural. All right, section 4. Sequencing the past perfect, untangling timelines. Let's look at how we talk about past decisions, like deciding to finally adopt that stray cat. English has two main ways to talk about the past simple and the past perfect. Look at this first example. She wanted a ginger cat. When one appeared, it felt like fate. Grammatically, it's fine, but it's a very loose connection. Now compare it to the second. She had always wanted a ginger cat. So when one appeared, it felt like fate. By using the past perfect, had always wanted, you establish a crystal clear sequence. It perfectly proves that her desire for the cat was firmly in place well before the cat actually showed up.
Now, what's really interesting about this timeline concept is how it proves that the past perfect anchors an event before another event, totally preventing us from collapsing our timelines together. A huge error learners make is using the past simple for the whole story. If you say, he never owned a pet before he moved abroad, you're kind of mashing those two events onto the exact same point in time. The sophisticated move is separating them. He had never owned a pet before he moved abroad. This instantly levels up your storytelling.
Finally, Section 5, polite and partial agreement, holding your own in a debate. Because let's be totally honest, eventually, you're going to argue over whose turn it is to clean that litter tray. When you're navigating a debate, blunt disagreement, like, that's completely wrong, might be accurate, but it instantly shuts the conversation down. It limits your conversational fluency. In English, we rely heavily on softeners. These are phrases designed to acknowledge the other person's view before you jump in with your own, signaling real intellectual respect. Firing off these exact hedging phrases quickly and automatically marks you as a highly confident speaker. I take your point, but, or I see where you're coming from, but. They let you hold your own without creating hostility. It shows you're actively listening and engaging. I want you to treat these expressions as whole, unbroken units to just copy and paste right into your next conversation. Look at the anchor words here. I take your point. I see where you're coming from. Fair enough. I get what you mean. That's fair. These specific anchor words are literally the glue holding the phrases together. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when you mess with them. If you drop the word from and just say, I see where you're coming, to a native ear, that is completely broken. Or say you try, I take your view instead of I take your point. Well, I take your view sounds like it could be right, but it's just not the standard collocation. The fixed phrase is, I take your point. Memorizing these as unbroken blocks is the absolute secret to sounding effortlessly respectful in an argument. So let's quickly recap the 4-part toolkit we've explored today. We took the B2 fluency leap, we mastered pet collocations, dodged the preposition to trap, sequenced our timelines perfectly, and wrapped up with polite partial agreement. So I leave you with this provocative final question. Which of these nuanced tools are you going to use to upgrade your very next English conversation? Because honestly, whether you're posting an ad for a stray kitten, looking forward to seeing an old friend, or telling a colleague that you take their point, these small, precise shifts are what truly unlock your fluency. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep practicing, keep refining those phrases, and I cannot wait to see you next time.